What up, Viking fans? Thank you for tuning in to the Skol State of Mind podcast. Now, I got a couple of off-season topics that I want to go through. So let's get into it. Well, Justin Jefferson had a couple of interviews this past couple of days with Rich Eisen and CBS Sports. Now, disclaimer, this is the off season, so you got to understand that a lot of things that are going to be talked about in this off season is going to be swirling just to basically create some kind of media buzz. But some of the topics that Justin Jefferson talked about in both of those interviews were his relationship with the Minnesota Vikings, what he expects when he gets a new contract, his relationship with Kirk Cousins, and how he feels about the future, of his NFL career. Now, with that being considered, I'm not going to be too mad about what Justin Jefferson said, and I'm not going to read into it too much because a receiver of his caliber being put in this position, asking about his contract and asking about his quarterback and his relationship with his current team, like what else was he going to say? I mean, some people are going to say like, "Oh my God, Justin Jefferson basically, is telling the Minnesota Vikings that he's not going to sign a contract if Kirk Cousins isn't his quarterback." I don't get that. That's not what he said. He's basically said that he expects to be the highest non-quarterback, when he signs the extension. And I think majority of us all knew that. So there's no surprise there. But for him to come out and praise Kirk Cousins so much, it's like, what else was he going to do? Like, that's pretty much the only quarterback he's ever played with. And basically, there's a time to praise him because Kirk Cousins is in a contract negotiation itself. So what was Justin Jefferson supposed to do? Was he supposed to badmouth Kirk Cousins and say, "Oh, he doesn't want Kirk Cousins back"? I mean, they have a relationship for the past 4 years. You're going to up your guy when you have a chance. That doesn't mean that he's not going to sign his deal. He's going to demand the Minnesota Vikings sign Kirk Cousins in order for him to come back. That's not what that means. And just like I said before, we are in the off season. So some of these topics that are trending in the media, you're going to have to take it with a grain of salt because there's not a lot of happening right now. And especially with the Minnesota Vikings, there's a lot of speculation going on what direction this team is going to go in at quarterback. So, and I think Justin Jefferson is smart enough to understand that there's might come a time where Kirk Cousins isn't on this team and he's not going to be the quarterback throwing him the ball. I think Jefferson understands that, but I don't think he kind of put a wedge in between his extension and Kirk Cousins' extension and basically saying, "Oh, he's not going to re-sign if Kirk Cousins isn't there." If you got that, then hey, so be it. But let's move on. So there's been a lot of talk about Antoine Winfield being Antoine Winfield Jr. Sorry, Antoine Winfield Jr. becoming a free agent and being linked to the Vikings, and should the Vikings consider it? No, and this is not a slight at Winfield Jr. Like, I think he's a great player. He will be a great asset on this team. But even if Harrison Smith decides to retire, or if the Minnesota Vikings decide to move in the direction, you have Josh Metellus, where you gave him a new contract last season, and you have Cam Bynum, where he's an excelling, safety in this league, and he's gonna get a new contract eventually. So you're going to be spending. You're already looking at re-signing Cam Bynum. So bringing Antoine Winfield Jr. in, is that taking away from Cam Bynum, or you're going to get people saying, "Oh my God, but Brian Flores, he runs a lot of three safety sets." Yeah, he runs a lot of three safety sets because the scheme and the lack of talent on the roster. I don't necessarily think he's going to be running that a lot next year. And I really feel like when we're talking about Josh Metellus, I really see him as a gadget guy. I really don't see him as a legitimate safety. But I still wouldn't want this team to go ahead in free agency and sign Antoine Winfield, because I feel like it would be a luxury. And I feel, you need to start to develop some of the players that's on your roster. And I know, Lewis Cine, we're going to say, "Oh, he's a bust," or whatever. But this is how I feel about Lewis Cine. I feel like Lewis Cine, Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum are basically the true safeties on this team. And we saw when Josh Metellus was asked to basically be a legitimate safety and cover and do what safeties do, you saw, his play decline. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of questions marks on this defense. I want to see Lewis Seen, you know, get his just due. I want to see him, you know, do something, not just be on a roster and not dress him, but bringing Antoine Winfield Jr. to this team is just going to just a luxury. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's not a need right now, and it's just something for guys to talk about. So let's move ahead. JJ McCarthy. Now, if you tuned into my last video, you saw that I basically, did like a mock draft where I took Jaden Daniels in the first round, did some trades or whatever, even though that mock draft simulator doesn't really simulate how accurate, when you're trying to trade for guys. But for the past couple of days, I've just been sitting thinking like, dang, what's up with JJ McCarthy? Like, is he good? Is he bad? Can he play in this league? Or, what's going on? So I've been looking at a lot of videos the past couple of days about JJ McCarthy, and I'm coming up with this. It's basically like, excuse me, um, if the Minnesota Vikings cannot move up in the top of the draft to draft a quarterback, or if moving up is too much and the Minnesota Vikings don't want to do that, would you guys be okay with them drafting a defensive player in the first round at 11, or trading back in the first round to maybe 17, 18, whatever, to accumulate some more picks, then trade back in the first round to select JJ McCarthy? And I know that the Michigan Wolverines didn't really pass the ball, in college, and they won the college title. So we really don't know what we're getting with JJ McCarthy. But just looking at some of his tape and some of the throws that he did make, and him running out the pocket, scrambling, making plays, like, I'm intrigued by. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if JJ McCarthy is somebody on the Minnesota Vikings shortlist going forward. And I'm gonna keep looking at videos because he might be the most obtainable quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings to do that won't be able to mortgage the future, going ahead. And not to say like I'm not against trading draft picks or trading whatever you got to get your guy, but there's something about JJ McCarthy. There's something about him that I actually like, and I'm like, maybe it can work. And I'm really intrigued by it, because you got to understand it like this. Every year in the draft, there's multiple quarterbacks that are projected to go high, that are projected to do so well, and so many of them don't. And then you get quarterbacks that a lot of people don't really like tout or look at, and they basically like, oh, this quarterback is already in this bin, and then that quarterback tries to excel. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Tom Brady. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Hall of Fame. I'm just saying I'm a little intrigued by JJ McCarthy. So let's move on to it. Super Bowl predictions. Now, this is going to be the last game of this season. Super Bowl is on Sunday. I probably won't be recording maybe until Sunday night with the Super Bowl reaction. But this is my Super Bowl prediction. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to beat the San Francisco 49ers. I would say something to like 24-17. I think Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, they go ahead and they get their third ring. And I think, the San Francisco 49ers come up short. But it could go a different way. The 49ers do have a nice defense, and Brock Purdy is looking like that guy. So I could be wrong, but my prediction as of right now is 24-17. Kansas City Chiefs win their third Super Bowl. All right. And I am going to be tuning in to that halftime show for Usher. That's what I'm looking forward to also for Super Bowl Sunday. But here are my closing remarks. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Skol State of Mind podcast. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys like the videos, share the videos, hit the notification bell on the way out. I really appreciate that. I'm seeing my channel grow a whole lot. I'm still relatively small, but I'm trying to stay way more consistent on bringing you guys videos. So, just keep it up. Keep supporting me. I'm gonna keep supporting y'all. I'm gonna keep giving y'all, my unfiltered opinion, going forward. But you know how I end the show? Skol, baby.